Happy Sunday, everybody. I'm Jessie Coffield. Welcome into The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Network. 1 hour of DFS and sports betting advice coming your way all the way up until kickoff of the 1 p.m. games. And boy, do I have good news for you guys. Here at DraftKings, we love to give people the chance to win $1 million, and Week 4 is no exception. You can play in the NFL $4.25 million fantasy football millionaire contest right now and get a shot at that $1 million prize. It is just $20 to enter, and not only will the winner earn that big cash prize, they're also going to pick up a seat in the DraftKings Tournament of Champions in January, which will feature another $1 million for the winner. So head over to the DraftKings lobby now to enter. So obviously, we're going to help you fill out those millionaire lineups. That's what we do here. But we're also here for betting DFS advice for today. So without further ado, I'm going to send it over to my co-host, Emerson Lotzia. Emerson, take it away.
Jessie, thank you so much. Mighty kind of you. Yeah, we're going to talk some foosball here. DraftKings contributor Reed T. Fowler, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, getting started with some early edge. So I need you guys to give us your best bet of the day. Jules, I'm going to start with you because once again, looks like you're going with the teaser, but I first need you to kind of explain what that is for anybody who is new here to the program and betting.
Well, Emerson, we've been cashing the teaser week by week, so we're going to stick with that theme. If you're not familiar, 6-point NFL teasers. You're going to combine two teams, essentially. You can do more if you want, but we're going to stick to two here on best bets. Combine two teams, and you give yourself 6 points on that line. So, for example, we will dive into my bet here. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both floating around 6.5, 7-point favorites on DraftKings Sportsbook. You're going to give yourself 6 points on each side. So essentially, you are going to get the Kansas City Chiefs to win -0.5 point, -1 in Philly, and the Buccaneers -0.5 point, -1 in New England to win that game. And that's at -120 on DraftKings Sportsbook. It gives yourself much better odds than a two-team money line parlay to just buy the points. So that's essentially why I like using them in spots that take a touchdown-ish favorite and get them down to a money line favorite. You can use them, as I think Steve's going to give an example, to get, slight underdogs up over some key numbers of 3 and 6 as well. But for today, Kansas City 1 and 2 so far. I think that they have a strong showing in Philly on the road and win that game. And I do not want to be going against Tom Brady in his return to Foxborough. I think Tampa's going to get this one done. So give me the Tampa Bay Kansas City teaser, a couple of square public sides, but I think this is the week that it gets to the window.
All right, how do you feel about Edlow going with the teaser here?
Yeah, it makes sense because when you look at Kansas City, not a great covered team straight up, right? Like ATS, they just haven't been historically. And if you take a look on the road, especially dating back to last year, Kansas City has struggled on the road. Going back all the way week 2. We're not going to take too much into that, but the Chargers covered at +5.5. If you look later in last season, Kansas City on the road, their point differential hasn't been great, but like Julian mentioned, especially on that other side with Tampa Bay and the Bucs, you definitely want to buy that down. I don't think you need to, but in Kansas City's case, yeah, especially after both of these teams coming off of weeks that they'd like to forget last week in Philadelphia and Kansas City, I think it definitely makes sense.
All right, Bukes, I know you're going in the same direction, but real quick, what do you think about his teaser?
Yeah, I mean, I like both teams to win here today. And then, Julian even mentioned at the beginning, before we went on air, the Eagles' offensive line, compared to week 1 to this week, there is nobody except for one that played in week 1. They're just decimated with injuries right now, so I do like that play a lot. For my best bet, though, for this week, this is also a teaser. We love the teasers on this show. So what you can do is the Broncos are current underdogs. You tease them, you can get them at +7 against the Ravens, and then you also are going to add the Green Bay Packers, get them down to ½ point, going against the Steelers. You get that at -120, just like Julian's. Look, I am shocked that the Broncos are underdogs in this one. Since 2003, I fumbled this a million times in the prior show. Since 2003, a home.
Oh, God.
I did it again. Unbeaten home run. You know why I can't fumble? Because this never happens. It never happens. So it's a sentence that's never said. Unbeaten home dogs are 9-3 against the spread. Round of applause, please. I got that right. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a struggle.
It's his first show.
It is my first show ever. I just got hired yesterday. But look, I mean, to have that type of number against the Ravens, this is not an elite Ravens offense right now. They're dealing with a ton of injuries. That Denver secondary is elite. They have been shut down the entire season. And then on the Packers side, I just haven't seen enough from the Steelers in this one. Ben Roethlisberger is averaging 6.5 yards per pass attempt. That is the second lowest of his career. Not going to get it done against the Packers, so I like that one there.
You like him taking these two games and turning it into a teaser?
So, I mean, my teaser is my best bet for a reason. I like it better than Steve's.
Of course
Do
you
I
do.
think that Steve's doesn't cash? Not necessarily. And the Broncos game is a weird one because I really loved. Baltimore opened as a 1.5-point dog in that one. I loved Baltimore up to 7.5 initially. Now, am I going to tease Baltimore anymore? No. If you tease this game, it's on the Denver side to get up to the touchdown home dog. I'm a little worried about this one just because Denver hasn't shown us anything. They've done what they're supposed to do. They've beat and covered against the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars. So we haven't seen them tested yet. Baltimore will be a test even banged up, and Lamar Jackson, even though this is more of a pick'em game, Lamar Jackson 10-3 ATS as an underdog. I personally like Baltimore to win this game. Doesn't mean that they're not that Denver at home won't keep it within a touchdown. And then, yes, I strongly lean to Green Bay winning that game at home against the Steelers. The Steelers have been a little bit of a mess, but the last time they were a road dog of 6.5 points was week 1 when they beat the Bills, looking like a completely different team than we've seen the last 2 weeks. So who knows if the Steelers shock us. I do like Green Bay to win that game,
There's
though.
too much agreement here today. Tell me why this is not going to cash.
Well,
He
Buicks's first
Baltimore
week,
might do this.
Yeah, Buicks's first best bet was Buffalo, picking Buffalo to win that. And look, like the Steelers, I think that's the one part, right? It's the Steelers, and if you look at Green Bay, they played in 2 primetime games back-to-back weeks, right? And the one that went down to the wire in last week. And if you take a look at what Lamar, and Julian alluded to it, what Lamar Jackson has done, ATS on the road, he's 13-7, 13-7-0 ATS with an 8.5 plus point differential against the spread on the road. He's much better covering on the road than he is at home, which is weird to say. And the thing that you like about the Steelers, if you are on that side, is that their defense is getting healthier. I'm in agreement, though. You want to pay those points up for Denver because this is their first test. But right now, Steve, it's at plus. If you're buying those points, it's at +5. If you're getting it right now, you got to get it early. I think both of you guys, what they're saying too, without saying it, is that you got to potentially get these numbers in early so you can get those more favorable lines. But then again, like Denver and Green Bay, I like them both, especially at that +5 on the Denver side because they haven't really played any defenses yet.
You also like the Dolphins laying a couple points at home?
I do.
This is your best bet?
And this is not a teaser, right? So this is just going to be straight up, just a, one
Thank
team.
you,
I'm
Reed.
just going to keep it simple because I am that last S, which I won't say on the show. Miami 2.5. Look, this is more of an indictment on Indianapolis and their defense as opposed to a ringing endorsement of the Miami offense. Although I like Jalen Waddle. Personally, for DFS, I think his props, I think his receptions is 4.5. I do like that over. I think if we take a look at Kenny Moore, he's been a guy who's given up 79% completion rate. He's given up a lot of yards per catch from that position and touchdowns. So I do like Jalen Waddle in that specific matchup. Well, you take a look at Indy. Quentin Nelson's out. Their offensive line is banged up. We talk about it all the time, that Carson Wentz has ankles on his injury report. Ankles, 2 ankles. We talked about it last week, and he's still rolling out there with ankles injury report and designation. Jonathan Taylor was questionable. You look at that defense on Indy's side. Rock Ya-Sin is out, right? Kwity Paye is out.
Okay.
Darius Leonard was questionable throughout the entire week. So when you take a look at Miami, well, I don't think that this is a powerhouse of an offense. I do think that we're giving a little bit more respect to the Colts guys, and that I just don't see that even with a healthy regime and a healthy team in week 1, they gave up a ton of points to Seattle. And now with a decimated defense and offensive line, I do think that Miami covers here.
But Steve, don't you think the Colts get a break here facing like a limited offense, which is led by former Colt Jacoby Brissett?
That's exactly what I'm thinking here, too. Like, we see Jacoby Brissett made that start last week against the Las Vegas Raiders. He completed 32 of his 49 pass attempts, only for 215 yards. Like, it's in that same scenario here again this week. He's just not getting his team downfield. And while he does bring some of that rushing upside and whatnot, I just don't think that there's enough here for the Dolphins to win this game. I get it that Carson Wentz is banged up. 2 ankles. It's absolutely extraordinary. How is he even taking the field? But I think this is a spot for the Colts here. I like them as underdogs in this one. If you told me that Miami was coming in as a +2 underdog, then I would actually probably take them instead. But with the Colts being the underdogs in this one, I'll take the points offense there.
I would totally expect the Colts to play at strength with Jonathan Taylor back there, but I will give Reed credit here. Miami 6-1 ATS in their last 7 home games.
Yeah, this is just kind of like last week. Reed went to Minnesota and Seattle, and I'm not trying to point out one of your losses. That one lost. You got Seattle right against the Colts in week 1 as your best bet, which I did like a lot. Look, I'm all for fading Indy this year. I took them at plus money to miss the playoffs before the year. They're underdogs on the road here for a reason. They just, they're going to get it together a little bit at some point, and Jacoby Brissett just got, overperformed, I think, what expectations on the road. I just see it as another one of these more coin flip games that I don't necessarily have a definitive opinion on. I can give you numbers that can kind of interest you in both sides. So I hope Miami gets this one done at home as somebody that is fading the Colts and backing the Titans in futures markets, and I lean to Reed being correct. I just can't go all the way in on it being kind of a definitive best bet.
So maybe this, and I'll probably look. I was looking at this Green Bay and Miami tease, getting the plus points on the Miami side, which I feel a little bit more
Never
confident.
tease through 0.
That's true.
A rule.
That's true.
Should've
But
said
if
that.
what I'm saying is, if you're less confident about one, I think this is part of the whole teaser. Part of it is if you're less confident in one, like these guys are about Miami and Indy, that's potentially what you want to get to. You want to tease above those key numbers, like those guys were saying. But this is just an example that how teases can help you if you're essentially on a coin flip, getting one side on the plus side.
I will say plus money on Jalen Waddle over 4.5 receptions, which Reed mentioned. I like that a lot. The Jacoby Brissett game, what did he catch? 12 of 13 targets last week? Even though he didn't even get 60 yards. That just means they're going to be putting the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
All right, now real quick, Miami news as well that came out this morning. Tua eyeing a week 6 return with all his injured ribs and all that stuff. Gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate it. Coming up, we got 2 of these guys. Which ones are going to be doing some hot takes here, exchanging of hot takes on today's game. But first things first, everybody, we got more measured advice right now. Let's send it over to our DraftKings partners, Pat Mayo, as he breaks down his favorite games to target in DFS this week.
I'm Pat Mayo with your Week 4 stackable games. When you're filling out your DraftKings lineup, where are you going to go to either play your correlations with a quarterback, receiver, tight end, maybe a double stack, and bring someone back the other way? The number 1 stack that I like the best this week, and there's a lot of high total games on DraftKings Sportsbook, so you can target a bunch of them, but this Dallas-Carolina game I find very intriguing, and it all really depends on how you feel about the Carolina defense. If you think that they can be had in this spot, then this game is going to be a points bonanza. Now, it's going to be popular because a lot of people watch what happened on Monday evening against the Philadelphia Eagles and are just going to be drawn to that. So there's one guy you probably want to avoid because of just overwhelming popularity, although he does save a bunch in money, so you'd have to get creative to get around him. That's Dalton Schultz. He is going to be the cheap tight end that people gravitate towards this week, whether it being a one-off or as a part of this Cowboys stack. But that does create some leverage at the top if you just want to play the most obvious one. You play Dak, you play Amari, you play CD Lamb. Well, it's expensive. It's nowhere near as expensive as a Chiefs triple stack. And although it still might be popular, there is a way to get away from some ownership when we think about the bring back, because DJ Moore is just very clearly the obvious Carolina Panther without Christian McCaffrey around, with his target share that is going to be on the other side of that stack. Now, here's what you can do to make it a little bit different. Chuba Hubbard, in replacement of Christian McCaffrey, makes a very fine bring back in this spot. He is a little bit expensive at $5,900, but he will be much lesser owned as a part of that stack than DJ Moore. But the move is probably actually Robbie Anderson. No one is using Robbie Anderson for pretty good reason, because he has been awful so far this season. He had one long catch in week 1 against the Jets. The Jets are terrible. This we know. But where can you get the Dallas defense? Well, over the past year and a half, between last year and so far this year, they are horrendous against deep passes. 31st in deep completion percentage against. That's, second worst in the league. In terms of yardage, absolute dead last. So the deep threat in any offense has a legitimate chance to really open up against the Dallas Cowboys. And Robbie Anderson, he's cheap. He's $5,100. No one is using him. But if you look at the market share of air yards on the Carolina Panthers this year, well, he's not getting an overall huge target volume. It's 32% of the deep passes are going towards Robbie Anderson. That's more than Terrace Marshall and DJ Moore combined in that spot. So that is your leverage point if you want to pay up for the Dallas Cowboys stack. Other than that, I think you can look at that Minnesota and Cleveland game and really just take as many of the pieces as you want, because Dalvin Cook appears like he's going to return. Maybe you leave him to the side. Maybe you want to use Cousins, Jefferson, and you could use Adam Thielen. Tyler Conklin looks like he might be a game-time decision, so avoid him. Maybe use KJ Osborne if Conklin sits. That way, it becomes super cheap in that spot, and then you can bring it back with one of the two running backs or Odell Beckham Jr. from the Cleveland side of the ball, and you get access to a very high total game in that area as well. The one under-the-radar stack, because sometimes the best way to get away from ownership and really get leverage on the field in these giant tournaments on DraftKings is to target a lower total game that you think is just going to go over the number. That could be Denver-Baltimore this week, and it's not going to cost you much, and you don't need a ton of players from the game. What you can do is use Lamar and Hollywood Brown, because maybe he'll catch a pass this week, and then bring it back with Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton was excellent last week against the Jets. They just didn't need him whatsoever. He caught all 5 of his targets, and in a higher total game, and Baltimore secondary, bad, very bad. He can get behind this defense and really have a gigantic game. So if you want a cheaper stack that no one is going to use, Lamar, Hollywood Brown, and Cortland Sutton from that late game.
Thank you to our guy, Pat Mayo. Now, as promised, it's time for Reed Fowler and Julian Edlow to turn up the temperature in here. They're going to debate their hottest takes for Sunday's game, so I'm going to get out of the way and let these two go at it.
All right, everybody. Here is Julian Edlow. He has got a hot take, let me tell you. Reed T. Fowler here. Steve Buchanan is not on this segment. And for reasons being,
Cold takes only for Steve.
He probably has a little bit more of a mild take than Julian's. I'm gonna give the stage to Julian here for his hot take, because it's gonna take a while.
All right. If you bet on DraftKings Sportsbook, I want to take my hot take and make it into something you can bet. I want to give the people something to do here. So, same game parlays, widely available on DraftKings Sportsbook now. What's the game of the week, Reed?
Raiders? No,
the Pats and Bucks. Right. 6-leg, same game parlay, plus 625 now I'm seeing on these odds. Here's what we're going to loop together. It all works. It all goes hand in hand. Tampa Bay, minus 9.5. Tom Brady's getting this game by double digits. Alternate spread right there. Tom Brady, over 249.5 passing yards, 250 plus. He's also going to throw for 2 or more touchdowns. We're including that as a leg. No Gronk. Ball's going to Antonio Brown in this game. Alternate receiving prop, over 39.5 receiving yards. He's getting into the 40s. He's going way over that, actually. Antonio Brown, anytime touchdown score. He's going to be catching one of these touchdowns from Tom Brady, at least one of these touchdowns from Tom Brady. And what are the Bucs going to do? They're going to run up the scoreboard. Tampa, over 27.5 team total. You put all those things together on DraftKings Sportsbook, plus 625. It all comes together. Go make some money.
Okay.
You can't even disagree.
No, look, and this is what I said to you off camera too before we came on, is that you're going on the square side, right? You're going on the Tampa Bay side, which is absolutely what you need to do if you're doing something of this nature.
You got to love when a plus 625 parlay is square.
Right, exactly. Because Tampa Bay, all the narratives are out there that Tampa Bay is going to do exactly what Julian is saying. Now, what is Antonio Brown going to be like off of COVID, right? We don't know yet. We've seen other players coming off of COVID be a little bit less productive than we think they are. Like, they're just going to come back and, they're going to come back into what they were doing. Antonio Brown, remember his last game when the Bucs ran up the score, he didn't have any production after that week 1 performance where he put up everything. So that's a little bit scary, but you're saying, right, it is a 39.5 receiving price.
Narrative game.
Exactly. Now, he's also going back to, well, he didn't play a home game in Foxborough.
Right.
So he's going back
There's
to
a little bit of bad blood there for being let go.
Exactly. So you look at all those things add up. You're taking the alternate spread. You're pushing it up, so you're getting your odds a little bit higher there. I like that. You're getting the team total, right? Because, look, New England has to pass. We know that New England has to pass. So if I had to add something in there and take maybe something out, it would maybe be the Antonio Brown anytime touchdown, even though Gronk's out. And maybe add something on the New England side, maybe like an overpass attempt on someone like Mac Jones, because he's going to have to pass 1,000 times to keep up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But having said that, 6 have to hit here. By nature, that is a hot take. That 6 things have to hit here. Okay, mine's a little less.
Antonio Brown is scoring, by the way.
Antonio Brown is.
So you can forget what Reed
Yeah,
said.
Antonio Brown might be scoring.
Score is yours.
But he might get like 20 or 30 yards. Look. My hot take is less of that nature. It's only going to involve 2 teams here, and I say both.
Cold take.
Both New York teams cover here. So you have the Jets getting 5.5, and you have the Giants getting 7. What I like about both of these games, and look, And we talk about narratives, right, Julian? The Jets have been talked up this week as the team that could cover because of Tennessee has no one. I think you mentioned it on your Twitter at Julian Edlow that we knew that Julio Jones was dealing with an injury. We knew A.J. Brown was going to be out, so we already knew these things coming in, right? So that wasn't like a big question mark. But if you look at what the Jets have faced in terms of defense, Carolina, Denver, New England, that's top 5 in terms of total defense from that team or from those opponents. And then when you get the Tennessee Titans, they're 23rd or 25th, right? So I like that side. And if you talk about the Saints, and we're going to get a really quick response from you, if you like the Saints here too, I just think this is going to be a close game, right? 148 total passing yards at a max for Jameis Winston. Hasn't been doing much after that. I think this is going to be a close game with the Giants.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are going to be the one, everybody's kind of saying, the Jets with those receivers out. We knew that, like you said. So I think that maybe some Jets passing props are in play because by far the weakest defense they've seen. I don't think the Jets are going to cover the game, though, honestly. I think they're that bad. The Giants, I think you're onto something. The Saints are up and down. I think the Giants can get there and surprise people in this game. A lot of people like the Saints in Survivor or Tease. I think the Giants are going to make it a game.
Yeah, I agree. Like the Giants, they need a lot of work, but Daniel Jones is helping that team now. So for some more measured takes than us two hammerheads up here, Ross Tucker and Emerson Lotzia talking about the Week 4 slate. Take it away, guys.
All right, it's time to get Tucker's takes for Week 4. You know the man, former NFL lineman and host of the Ross Tucker podcast. That would be Mr. Ross Tucker. Bunch of beefy storylines here in Week 4. We're going to get to the GOAT Bowl coming up. But first, I do want to start in the NFC West. You have the undefeated Cardinals visiting the undefeated Rams. 3-0 versus 3-0. Home team is the favorite. You like LA to cover?
You know what? I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals, Emerson, and I'll tell you why. I think they are playing very well right now. They're a little bit under the radar, and I think the LA Rams are poised for a letdown here, man. I mean, last Sunday they had Brady and the Bucks come to town. They got the big win. They're number 1 everybody's power ratings, including mine. Everybody's saying how great they are. All the Hollywood stars came out to the game. I think the Rams are poised for a little bit of a letdown, and the Cardinals might be able to take advantage of it. I'll take the points.
Wow, okay. That Rams offense has looked like a juggernaut, though, with Stafford under center, no?
Yeah, they have, and that's certainly a concern because I don't think the secondary for Arizona is very good. So I'm counting on Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, and the boys to get some pressure on Stafford. And look, this is all about the spot and the points. It's a tough spot for the Rams coming off the huge win over the Bucks, and I think both teams are pretty evenly matched right now. I'm going to take the points if I can.
Okay, maybe two teams that aren't so evenly matched. You have the Eagles. Here we are once again talking about the Eagles with you. Hosting an angry Chiefs team here, Ross. The Chiefs are 1-2, maybe one of the biggest early surprises of the season, 2 straight losses. They have not covered a spread this year. They're also in 4th place in that division that includes a couple undefeated teams. But do you expect the Chiefs to cover the spread in Philly?
I kind of do, man. This is a bad spot for the Eagles. They played Monday night. Now they're coming back home against a Chiefs team that's lost 2 in a row. What are the odds that the Chiefs lose 3 in a row? Not real good. And really, if you look at those last 2 losses against both the Ravens and the Chargers, it was all turnovers, man. I mean, Edwards-Helaire fumbles at the end of the Ravens game. They had turnovers on their first 3 drives in the Chargers territory last week. It's not good, clearly. I don't think it happens to Philly, in Philly for the Chiefs. I kind of like the Chiefs to cover, man.
All right, yeah, Chiefs giving up 430 yards to opposing offenses. Like, maybe the Eagles can take advantage of that a little bit. I know they put up 32 against Atlanta, but they could not keep up with the Cowboys.
No, they couldn't. And I think the thing that's interesting about Philadelphia, the offensive play caller and defensive play caller, it's their first time doing it. So they had sort of an advantage that week 1 game against Atlanta because nobody had ever really seen what these guys are going to do. Now that the book is out on them a little bit, they're going to have to adjust because clearly Dallas had the better of them.
All right, now to the game we've all been waiting for in Foxborough, the return of the prodigal son. You got Brady versus Belichick, GOAT versus GOAT. The Bucs are heavy favorites here. The Pats have looked like they no longer have Tom Brady under center for them. What do you think the chances are of Belichick keeping this game close?
I think he can keep it close. Look, I got a lot of faith and trust in Bill Belichick as a game planner. I think he was the best I've ever been around during my career in terms of really knowing what made the other team successful, what made the other team tick. But it's all about the number here, man. I mean, if you can get it for less than 7, as it's been at times this week, then I think you lay it with the Bucs. If it's more than 7, as it's been at times this week, then I think you go ahead and you take the Patriots. This is all about the number. Less than a touchdown, I like #Tommy to be able to cover. More than that, I think maybe I'll go with Mac Jones and Bill Belichick and the points.
All right, how about looking at the rest of the Week 4 slate around the NFL? Which other spread catches your eye?
You know, this is one where the health is a major factor. I kind of like Denver, though. I know Denver hasn't played anybody yet. Look, I get it. They have not played very good opponents. They're still NFL teams, and they're still winning and beating them by double digits. I give them a lot of credit for that. Now they face a beat-up Ravens team. Lamar Jackson practiced on Friday, but he's got that back issue. I don't like that the Broncos guards are banged up, but the Ravens have been kind of living dangerously. Now they're out in the altitude in Denver. Give me the Broncos.
Oh, by the way, Denver, one of 2 teams currently 3-0 straight up and ATS in the NFL this season. Give me a total you like the over or the under on.
Dude, I'm going under on Bears-Lions.
Okay.
I mean, the Bears defense is legit. The Bears offense is legitimately horrible. And here comes Detroit. I think Detroit's okay offensively. Hawkinson, Goff, Swift, they've been all right. You know, they put, 17, 19 points up in these games. And their defense has been solid. I just think it's a really low-scoring game. And this feels like a 17-14, NFC North slugfest game that goes under. I don't see either one of these teams hitting 20 points. Give me the under for the Bears and the Lions.
Yeah, maybe Justin Fields just hoping he doesn't get sacked 9 times this week. Let's talk fantasy football before you get out of here. Give me a player on the main slate. So between the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games here that you think will go off.
Yeah, I'm going Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He fumbled 2 weeks in a row. I was surprised. Andy Reid let him in there, and he just kept playing. I mean, he let him stay in the game, and Edwards-Helaire had one of his best games in a while. The Eagles play a lot of 2 deep safeties, right? So they don't want to allow Tyreek Hill to beat him over the top. They don't want to give up the big chunk plays. They're daring you to be patient and to run the football, which is exactly what I think the Chiefs are going to have to do. Look for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have a huge day in Philly.
Coming off best game of the season, too. 5-4 is what it'll cost you on DraftKings. Before you get out of here, Week 4 is going to wrap up Monday Night Football. You've got the Raiders, baby. You've got the Chargers. Who do you think covers in this one? Raiders 3-0 right now.
Yeah, I like the Raiders. And I'll tell you why. If you look at the line for this game, it almost feels like they've priced it as if the Chargers are the home team. I know the game's in Los Angeles. Let me just tell you, the Chargers are not the home team, okay? There will be more Raiders fans at SoFi Stadium than there are Chargers fans. I don't feel like the books have priced it that way. That's why I'm going to go with the Raiders and the points.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good take there because road team 4-1 ATS in the last 5 meetings between these division rivals. Ross Tucker, always good catching up with you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, good stuff, guys. We got plenty more to do before kickoff. When we come back, we're going to dive into some DFS plays with a segment we like to call All the Feels. Plus, we're going to get to that Sunday night matchup. It's kind of a big one. But before we take a break, we've got some new podcasts dropping regularly here at DraftKings, including Die Hard Dialogue with Gary Vaynerchuk. So each week, Gary breaks down the Jets matchup with a diehard fan of New York's opponent. Watch along to see if you agree with Gary and the guests on a bet that they picked to boost on the DraftKings Sportsbook. And join Join a weekly DFS contest to win cash and a football card from Gary's personal collection, okay? Here's Gary with more on how you can listen and win.
Hey guys, it's Gary V. Make sure you tune in to DraftKings YouTube channel for Die Hard Dialogue, where each week we do a listener league, DFS, and give away some of my highly valuable football cards, and we boost one prop bet. Die Hard Dialogue, DraftKings YouTube channel.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and during Week 4, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $150 automatically. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for millions when you make your first deposit. Just download any of the apps and use promo code SWEAT. What's up, everyone? We are back here on The Sweat, and here's something you need to pay attention to.
Okay.
Very important. We tell you each week how you can become a millionaire here on DraftKings. So, take a look at the guy, the individual who did it last week. Just allow me to tell you really quick, though, what this lineup looked like. All right, so the millionaire contest last week that he won, he had 7 of his roster spots scoring at least 20 points.
Oh.
Not many of them were highly owned. Josh Allen absolutely went off, had like 4 touchdowns, more than 40 points. He also started Alexander Madison.
Oh my God.
Yep, with Cook out. Very nice plug and play. So, trust me on that. But now we're going to break out the emojis. We got some fire emojis because it's time for a segment we call All the Feels. Steve Buchanan is back.
Hi.
We welcome in Pierce Dietrich. We got Jeff Ulrich.
Yeah, guys, you know the drill, right? So we're going to hold up an emoji, and you tell us which player is going to make you feel like said emoji. So we're going to start with...
What do you got?
Shocked face.
Oh.
All right, shocked face. Steve, Who is going to make you feel this way?
Yeah, I'll go with Robbie Anderson in this one. There's been some rumblings that him and Sam Darnold have been working together to get him more acclimated with the offense, which seems kind of weird because these guys have known each other for a few years now. But even though Anderson isn't producing what the box score says, he's still averaging over 9 yards per target, 2.69 yards per route run. Like, he's still getting out there on the field. The ball just hasn't made his way to his hands. Obviously, DJ Moore has been the alpha in this offense, but I think this is a good week for Robbie Anderson to kind of get it going against this Dallas team. So I think Robbie Anderson is going to be someone who's going to shock some people here today.
Pierce, this emoji is shooketh. Who is going to make you feel that way?
Najee Harris is going to get over 15 targets again this week. The Steelers have limited healthy weapons. He's on the field all game long, and he seems to be the guy that Ben's going to go to. Last season, the Green Bay Packers allowed the third most points in fantasy to receiving running backs.
All right, Jeff, who's making you feel shocked?
Daniel Jones at 5,800. Look, what can you do against the Saints? You can't run the ball. They're allowing under 3 yards per carry against. Daniel Jones has not been that bad for fantasy purposes. He's also averaging 7 yards per rush. So you take this all into account. The Giants projected to be behind. They don't have a good rush defense. Daniel Jones could throw the ball 40-plus times here. Daniel Jones could have a big day. I think he's going to factor in as the cheap under-owned quarterback in a lot of the big contests.
All right. Fire emoji? Fire emoji, Pierce?
Fire flames.
Talk to me.
Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are going to break through this week. Diggs has got 31 targets, third most in the NFL. This team passes all game long. They play at a breakneck speed, and they've been knocking on the door. They just need that big play. They're going to get it today.
All right, Jeffrey, fire emoji.
I really wish there was someone with the last name of Burns I could pick here, but I couldn't find anyone in the DraftKings player pool. So I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. Patrick Peterson has been terrible this year. Opposing quarterbacks throwing against him a 128 passer rating. Wide receivers are converting over 80% of their targets thrown when Patrick Peterson is covering them. Odell Beckham said he didn't have his legs under him last week. He still played over 60% of the snaps, and he had a pretty good game. He's going to burn Patrick Peterson, and he's going to light it up, and you're going to see that fire emoji alongside his name today.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. Do not forget, these dudes go off in DFS. It's the fire emoji, the complete opposite of the snowflake emoji.
Steve's never seen it. He only sees the snowflake emojis, Emerson.
Oh, wow. There we go. Wow. Speaking of fire, go ahead, Steve. Fire back.
Yeah, I'll have Jeff take a look at my bank account. Then we'll talk about it.
Oh, yeah!
So, I like Jalen Hurts this week with the fire emoji, lighting it up against the Chiefs. Look, they don't have a very healthy offensive line. The Eagles do. But the Chiefs are not going to give them much of a pass rush here. They have one of the worst pass rushes in the league so far this season. Jalen Hurts has worked with a clean pocket 71% of his dropbacks so far this season. In that scenario, he's averaging 7.1 yards per pass attempt, an 81% adjusted completion rate in that scenario as well. So I think this is going to be a great spot for him against a Eagles team that should be playing catch up against the Chiefs. Look, I know sometimes when Jalen Hurts has been playing, especially last week, it looks ugly in real life, but it does continue to produce fantasy points. Jalen Hurts, get this fire emoji today.
Okay, the thinking face, Jeff. Maybe it's kind of like questioning?
Yeah, like questioning decisions that we made and rostering Justin Jefferson this week against the Browns team who, 9 times sacked Justin Fields last week. I'm not saying they're going to sack Kirk Cousins 9 times, but this is a team that plays as one of the slowest paces in the NFL. They have Nick Chubb to control the game flow. The Vikings' run defense was bad last week against Chris Carson. I can't imagine what Nick Chubb is going to do. I just don't think the downfield targets for Justin Jefferson is going to be there this year. And let's give the Browns secondary a little bit of credit because we tried to pick on them last week. It didn't work. They're athletic. They're fast. I think Justin Jefferson, you're going to be questioning why you put him in your lineups this week.
Steve, what are you questioning?
If I really want to go in on Justin Fields or not today, going against the Detroit Lions secondary, look, nothing can get much worse than what we saw last week when he completed 6 of his 20 pass attempts for 68 yards against the Cleveland Browns. This is not even close to being that type of defensive team that he's going to be facing with the Lions today. He has a lot of good matchups that he can go to, like Allen Robinson in a great matchup against his secondary. And supposedly, Matt Nagy said they're going to cater to his style. I don't know what what that means because I don't know anything what Matt Nagy says means. But if that is going to be the game plan in this one, Justin Fields should be able to succeed in this matchup. I know they're only slight favorites in this one, but I think nothing could get much worse than what we saw that last time out. Fields should have a much better time this time around.
All right, Pierce, who are you questioning?
What I'm thinking about is Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick? Their stats are similar. The performance is similar. Slap a beard on this dude, and it's basically Ryan Fitzpatrick. And we would play Fitzpatrick against a bad Atlanta team, so why not play him this weekend against Atlanta? Tyler Heineke.
But then he's also got to play for half the teams in the league as well, Pierce. Steven, let's go. Who's going to have, there you go, who is going to have the GOAT performance on this Week 4 main slate?
I mean, look, Cooper Kupp has been that guy through the first 2 weeks of the season. There's no reason he can't be that in Week 4 as well. He is absolutely dominating the target share so far this season. 35% of the team targets have gone his way, and he gets an excellent matchup in the slot against Byron Murphy Jr., who has already allowed 6 receptions on 14 targets for a total of 156 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp is no secret. He's going to be highly owned today, but there's good reason for that. He's going to have one of those type of performances once again.
All right, Pierce, the GOAT performance today.
It's Derrick Henry. Every article this week has pointed out at DK Nation that everything lines up for Derrick Henry. Even Steve Buchanan himself pointed out when Tennessee is on the road and they're favored by a touchdown, Henry averages 30 fantasy points per game. It's Derrick Henry, no doubt.
The highest priced player on the main slate today, $8,800. Jeff, who is your GOAT in Week 4?
Very impressed Steve did some research this week. But I'm going to go to another running back, Alvin Kamara. A slow start to the year. He's averaging 3.4 yards per carry. But the Giants, they're banged up everywhere. They're also one of the worst rush defenses in the league so far, 8th worst in terms of yards per carry against. First game in New Orleans on the fast track. Alvin Kamara about to light it up here, in my opinion. He's still one of the leaders in terms of red zone touches as well. Hasn't rushed for a touchdown yet. I think this game is going to be faster paced than people think. I think Daniel Jones will put a little pressure. It's only going to be more touches for Alvin Kamara on the other side. So I think Alvin Kamara going to do a little bit of a slate breaker here this week.
All right, here's an interesting one. It's the expressionless emoji. So interpret as you will, Pierce.
Justin Fields killed me last week, so I don't want anything to do with him. But it was a tough matchup. Now he's got an easy matchup, and of course he's going to go out there and get 25 fantasy points.
All right, Jeff, interpret it as you will.
It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I'm going to play him because the Chiefs have a 32-point implied team total here, and he should get 30 touches against an Eagles team that just, allowed like 6 yards per carry against Ezekiel. And still somehow Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably going to get like 10 points and be a bust. So that's the face I'll probably be making at that point.
All right, Steve, who are you going with?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is the most expensive receiver on this slate at $8,000. I could take it or leave it, quite frankly, in this matchup against the Eagles. And we've seen it already. The majority of his production came in Week 1. In the 2 weeks after that, only 70 total yards after that. He's too boomer bust for me at $8K, especially with some of the good matchups that some of these guys below him are in, like Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp.
Jeff, bring us home with this. Who is going to deliver the money face and have you just throwing up dollars?
It's Deebo Samuel, man. Why is this guy $6,500? 16.7 yards per catch, averaging 10 targets a game, leads the league in yards after the catch. This guy is playing like one of the top 5 receivers, and he's priced like wide receiver 20 on the slate. Keep playing Deebo. He's the guy in San Francisco right now. Give him some respect.
Steve, Jeff says you have done your research today, so tell me who will give you the money face.
Devontae Adams, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. Good research.
But no, obviously this matchup is really good for him against the Steelers. The Packers are 6.5-point favorites at home, which is where Aaron Rodgers always excels. They have no answer for Devontae Adams in this one. And MVS is also out of this game, so that means more targets towards Devontae Adams. He's going to absolutely smash in this matchup.
Second highest priced wide receiver on the slate. Pierce, let's go. Bring us home.
Colin Johnson saves some money, makes some money. Jeff likes Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is going to throw the ball in a pass-heavy script to Colin Johnson.
Gentlemen, good stuff. Very good stuff. We're talking GOAT Bowl. So Brady versus Belichick on Sunday Night Football. Jeff and Pierce hang out because we need you two to come back and give us your DFS and sportsbook picks for the primetime matchup.
But before we take a break, we got to tell you about a new podcast on DraftKings. It is called Props and Drops. So DraftKings co-founder Matt Kalish and Gary Vaynerchuk talk about the trends they see in sports with NFTs, sports cards, and more. So here's Gary V now to tell you more about the podcast.
Hey guys, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the co-hosts to Props and Drops, along with Matt Kalish, co-founder of DraftKings. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, where we talk about props, the bets, and what's going on in sports culture, and the drops, everything that's happening in NFT land. Subscribe anywhere you listen to a podcast, Props and Drops.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and during Week 4, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $150 automatically. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for millions when you make your first deposit. Just download any of the apps and use promo code SWEAT.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie Coffield, letting you know that if you want to get a jump start on winning $1 million in Week 5, here's how you can do it. Head over to the pool section on the DraftKings Sportsbook and enter our Championship Series Millionaire Pool for Week 5. So pick the winner from the 14 games, starting with Sunday's 1 p.m. slate. The more you get right, the more you win. Whoever gets the most wins the top prize of $1 million. It's $25 to enter, and you can enter up to 40 times. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. But before we get to Week 5, we have got two great primetime matchups to talk about in Week 4 with DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich. Fellas, need your favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. So Pierce, let's start with your favorite DFS play for the highly anticipated Bucs-Patriots matchup.
Kendrick Bourne, he played almost 80% of the snaps last week, 45 routes, 8 targets for 6 catches, a touchdown, almost 100 yards receiving. And that's against a really good Saints defense. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just chasing one good game. Well, there's only been 3 games, so I'll chase one game. I don't have any problem with that. Tampa's secondary, when they were healthy, they were struggling. They're not healthy anymore. And the way this game script is supposed to be is that the Patriots are going to be playing from behind, which means more passing. So give me Bourne.
All right, Jeff, where are you going?
Yeah, I really don't mind that Bourne call. I mean, attacking the Tampa Bay secondary is definitely something to do, but let's look at it. Which stud do we want to pay up for? And I like Chris Godwin in this spot. I don't think many people are going to be wanting to pay up for Chris Godwin simply because you have Antonio Brown and even Jacoby Myers down there, so much cheaper. But you look at the matchups here. Jonathan Jones likely going to be matched up against Chris Godwin. This is not a fair matchup. Godwin already averaging about an 80% conversion rate on his targets from Tom Brady this year. That's a really big improvement over last year. Jonathan Jones, the last couple games, he had a nice week one, has not looked that good. He's allowed about a 75% completion rate. He also allowed a touchdown last week. I think Godwin is in a spot here to go off. Pat's definitely going to be concerned about stopping Antonio Brown just for saving face purposes. Pay up for Godwin. You're probably going to get lower ownership as well. I like him on this big millie maker for the Sunday Night Football.
All right, Jeff, how about your favorite bet for this Bucs-Patriots game?
Well, I definitely like Mac Jones as a DFS play, but I also like going over his passing prop here. We already talked about the Tampa Bay secondary. This defense really isn't playing that good, if we're being dead honest. Yes, they're still stopping the run, but the rest of their team isn't really as sharp as we saw it in the Super Bowl last year. Mac Jones's passing prop is only 263.5 right now in the DraftKings Sportsbook. Now look, he's actually gone over this in 2 games already in the season, so we do have precedence. He's had an over 70% completion rate in 2 of his 3 games as well. Good. I think that the Patriots they're going to be smart, and Bill Belichick is a pretty smart head coach. They're going to attack the weakness of the Bucs here, and that should mean lots of throwing for Mac Jones. And at the very worst, if they get behind late like they did last time, he might throw 50 times again. I think this total is way too low. Give me the over on his passing yards this week.
Pierce, where are you going?
Kendrick Bourne over 24.5 receiving yards. Where did this line come from? As Jeff just mentioned, we're expecting Mac Jones probably in a game where they're playing from behind to pass a lot for around 250 yards. Well, if he's going to pass for 250 yards, it's got to go somewhere. And I understand Patriots have multiple receivers to go to, but this is not asking for a lot, especially after a big week from him last week. He seemed to have a connection with Mac Jones. And as I mentioned before, Tampa's secondary, not good. They just signed Richard Sherman. He stepped on a field for the first time a couple of days ago, and he's going to start? Are you kidding me? I like Bourne a lot in this game.
All right, moving on to Raiders-Chargers. Pierce, what's your favorite DFS play in this one?
I like Keenan Allen. One of the things the Chargers do a lot is throw in the red zone and throw inside the 10-yard line. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are towards the top of the league in terms of red zone targets. They're towards the top of the league in terms of inside the 10 targets. Now, the strange thing is the Raiders don't want you to pass in the end zone. They'll let you walk in. That's been the case for a couple of years. So something's got to give. Are the Chargers going to pass, or are the Raiders going to let them run the ball in? I think they'll trust Keenan Allen. He's going to get multiple touchdowns.
All right, Jeff, favorite DFS play in this one?
I really like Keenan Allen in the spot too, but I like Darren Waller just as much. And the thing about both these guys, and Pierce probably going to agree with me, they're pretty cheap. I mean, they're $2,000 less than Mike Williams. You look at how the Raiders offense is set up and the matchups for this week, the Chargers have good corners. And Chris Harris Jr., I'm sorry, he's probably going to take away Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs had that one nice big play, but this is a really tough matchup for a guy like Henry Ruggs. You can't really take away Darren Waller with one of your corners, though. And also, we have Kenneth Murray now banged up and very questionable with an ankle injury for the Chargers. That depletes them more down the middle. People want to get scared off Darren Waller because he only had 10 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. He still had 14 targets. He was probably resting after getting 19 targets in week one. Darren Waller is way too cheap this week, and he's in a pretty good matchup here. Raiders love to throw the ball. They've thrown it more than every other team except 2 so far on the year in terms of pass attempts per game. Waller should go out here and just absolutely dominate in a game where I think the Raiders will be throwing until the very end.
All right. Finally, your favorite bet for Raiders-Chargers, Jeff. What is it?
Yeah, and let's keep this theme going. If I think the Raiders are going to throw, and they have thrown it over 40 times per game so far, let's take the over on Derek Carr's pass attempts. It's 35.5 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Derek Carr, even in their wins, he's thrown over 37 times per game. If this one, again, works out how the line says it's going to work out, with the Chargers sitting around +3, +3.5, they're going to be behind late, and he's going to have to throw the ball. So, again, we have a guy who's playing really well, a Raiders offense who's been throwing the ball a lot, and they're going up against a pretty good team who they're underdogs against. This sets the stage for more Derek Carr passes. You got to take the over on this one. This one just feels way too low right now.
All right, Pierce, where are you going?
Bryan Edwards over 36.5 yards receiving. If Carr's going to throw for 284 yards, let's say 84 of that goes to Waller. Well, where's the other 200 going to go? Edwards has gone over this number every single week. He's got 2 80-yard receiving games. He's got a 40-yard receiving game. I know the Chargers have a good secondary, but 36.5 in this game doesn't seem like much at all.
All right, excellent work, you two. We are closing in on kickoff, and for that reason, I will send it over to my co-host, Emerson Lotzia, who is no stranger to sweating.
Wow.
That's great, right? Yeah, everyone
Pretty
really
good,
enjoyed
pretty good.
that. Well, it's true.
It's true.
I've seen you
I don't know, I
sweat.
may have a thyroid problem. You never know. Okay, so that's why this segment is called Working Up a Sweat. Reed, Julian, Steve, back for one more go-around here. So things you may be rethinking, talking last-minute DFS takes before lock. What about you?
Yeah,
Anything?
in that little promo there, it looks like, was that you that was doing all those push-ups?
Obviously.
Duh. Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because Jessie did throw you under the bus there. I wanted to
Well,
give you
she's
more of
not
the confidence.
lying
boost.
again.
True.
Right.
But I'm going to say more exposure to the late game, guys. The late swap for DFS is definitely something that you guys have to be doing. And just because you're allowed to, if you need more of the upside, you want to take more of the upside plays on the late slate if you're chasing from the early 1 p.m. games. And so that includes Tyler Lockett, and that includes Najee Harris. I think Pierce mentioned Najee Harris. He likes him. Both of these guys, I love getting Tyler Lockett off of these games where he goes off for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then he goes to the 4 for 31 the next game. Tyler Lockett's ownership is down. Najee Harris, a lot of people not believing what this guy can do. I like having those guys as a late swap and make sure it's in that flex spot as opposed to in the positional spot so you make that change.
You think a lot. You rethink a lot. What are you rethinking right now? Minutes before lock.
He does.
I'm actually glad that you put the question that way, Emerson, because I'm not overthinking anything this week.
Whoa,
Whoa.
Hey,
We
show
have
off.
the Titans line coming down. That one was over a touchdown, the Titans' favorite. Now it's coming down. It's even touched 5.5. It's at 6. We're seeing the Buccaneers come down to 6.5, 6-point favorites after being up at 7. I'm not overthinking either of those. The Bucs and Titans are going to win. They are worth teasing together. From a DFS standpoint, people are maybe getting cute, getting worried about the Titans. Oh, the Jets are going to cover. They're going to win that game. I want Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is going to have a fantastic game. The Titans are going to win that game. These are two spots that were very public all week, and they're starting to come back as we approach kickoff. Things are going to go as planned in those two games.
Derrick Henry, big and beefy. Also, that salary, big and beefy. 8-8. What about you? Anything, or is everything you said today perfect, like Jules?
Here's what I would say. There's always good to rethink because maybe you missed something the first time around.
Very good.
And I'm glad that you brought up Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry is kind of my point here. I'm not telling you to not play Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry should be considered the top running back option on this slate going up against the Jets. With that said, paying down at running back this week could also be something you could do in those large field tournaments. There's a lot of solid matchups in that mid 6K range. Miles Sanders going against the Chiefs, Jonathan Taylor going against the Dolphins, Chris Carson going against the 49ers, DeAndre Swift. There's a lot of guys in that range that I want to be looking at this week too as well. It's going to help your lineup construction be a bit more unique as well because Derrick Henry is going to carry so much ownership, rightfully so, but I think looking at that mid running back range is also something to consider. As
Chase
well.
Edmonds, too.
We got a few minutes here left in show, around 2.5 minutes. So let's make it rain for everybody. You guys share with us your DFS play that is going to absolutely make it rain cash for everyone. Jules, I'll allow you to go first.
Ties right in. It's Derrick Henry here. You're spending the money on Derrick Henry.
It's a Derrick Henry
But you
segment
should
here.
be.
I mean, look, I'm just kind of thinking along the lines of the people that are backing the Jets here and thinking the Jets have a chance in this game, and we see this number shrink and shrink, which in theory makes Derrick Henry less of a chalk play, being over a touchdown favorite that's going to get all the carries down the stretch. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a huge game, and the Titans are going to smash the Jets.
Yeah, 22 points last week, 50 points in week 2. That
boy.
second half performance against Seattle. Want to make it rain for the people?
Yeah, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, 51.5 game total with Cleveland, Minnesota. Cleveland's giving 1 point. This team, both of these teams are, essentially going to be going back and forth based off of what we're seeing. And a lot of the roster percentage guys they're not coming in on this game. There's a lot of other spots. I mean, Steve mentioned some players that you can take in that, in some of the least expensive, running backs. But Nick Chubb has been a guy who's got a touchdown in like 7 of his last 8 games. Last week was his first one. Dating back to last year, we didn't have a touchdown. I think he goes back to that. We've seen the volume there on the rushing side. He's getting work, his minimal work in the passing game. But a lot of people might go to Kareem Hunt as opposed to Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb at 7K, and especially his roster percentage, it's always under 10%. So I love Nick Chubb this week.
Yeah, the cheapest he's been all season long.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that has to do with coming off the 8-point performance, but you expect a rebound. What about you, Steve? Make it rain.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp is getting those Devontae Adams type numbers, 35% of the team targets so far. Next guy in line, Robert Woods at 20.4%. Look, the Cardinals secondary has been great, but they struggle against slot receivers. That's exactly what Cooper Kupp is. They should be able to get him the ball easily and efficiently. He's going to go off for one of those monster 100-plus yard type game. I have no doubt about that. And what's supposed to be one of the highest scoring games on the slate as well. So I think Cooper Kupp is the guy to go to at wide receiver once again, despite his price tag. He's going to keep it going again this week.
And Green Bay's 2 wins have had the total in the 50s too. So should be an exciting week for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative of you guys being here today and sharing all the information that you shared with us.
You're welcome.
So we're going to do this again next weekend. Yeah, we are. I hope you're around.
All right.
Sunday at high noon on Bally Sports Networks, also on the DraftKings YouTube and Twitch pages. You can catch the Sweat tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, leading up to high noon. We do this Monday through Friday. Again, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody.